lot of people, when they think of Ajax, think of a small town, but we're actually kind of growing beyond that. I'm always in the firm belief that whatever you're doing in life, be the best of your field. And that's always what I'm striving towards. Just be authentic. So if that means, wearing Jordans instead of, dress shoes, or we're modernizing a lot in this town.
What's your favorite part of Ajax?
So Costco is my favorite part of Ajax.
What would you do in Ajax on a weekend? If you had to describe Ajax in 3 words, what would those 3 words be? Have you always had an interest in politics? How did you get into this type of role? Do you explain a little bit what your role as a regional councillor for the town is then?
Okay.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of TOA Talks. Today on our episode, I have Regional Councillor for Ward 2, Sterling Lee with me.
Hi, Devon. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm incredibly excited to have Sterling here today, as he actually took over hosting duties for all the previous episodes of this season, where he was interviewing his council colleagues. So if you haven't already checked out those episodes, I highly recommend you go back and take a look. So with that, welcome, Sterling.
Chevin, you're being polite. I think I browbeated you to get this role. I think I begged, pleaded, called in all favors to become host because, I like this. I think if you asked me what my dream job would have been if it wasn't politician, it would be talk show host.
So, really?
Yes.
All right, so we have you for all the future seasons is what you're trying to say.
I mean, you're saying right now, so we got it.
We have it on camera. Oh, no.
It's official now.
All right, so Sterling, I know you've been part of council since 2018 here in Ajax, but maybe just for listeners to get to know you a little bit better first, why did you choose Ajax to live in?
So I grew up in Markham, Ontario.
Okay.
I lived there all up to university and then moved to Toronto. And Markham at the time was pretty diverse. It was probably 50% East Asian and then 50% all other races. And so I got to meet a plethora of people. And then now, if you go back to Markham now, it's obviously predominantly Chinese, and that's fine. But I think, I knew I wanted to start a family. And Ajax is one of the last few towns or cities that offers like genuine multiculturalism, right? So we have a huge Tamil population, huge Afghani, Pakistani, And so it's just like I wanted my kid to experience kind of true multiculturalism, not just that homogenized version of it.
And how old is Finn?
Finn is 6.5.
Nice.
Yes.
And so you've been here obviously since Finn's been born.
So we moved here 2015.
Okay.
So it's been 9 years now. Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, nice. What's your favorite part of Ajax?
North Ajax. I say that because that is my ward. If you ask favorite based on like where I go the most, it would have to be Costco. So Costco is my favorite part of Ajax. No, I listen. I probably spend most of my time at the Audley Rec Centre. I live right across the street from here, and it's the crown jewel of Ajax in terms of just like one of the nicest libraries, one of the nicest community halls, one of the nicest pools. So my kid and I spend tons of time here, so it's great.
Right, and we're actually filming this episode in
live
the banquet
on
hall
location.
here. Yes.
That's right.
Which is available for rent for things like weddings, corporate events.
Are we doing plugs already? Yes.
Why not? Like if you live in Ward 2, it's a great space to be able to utilize for the community.
It's sectionalized. You can have actually multiple events here, and I think the mayor's gala has been here. I think 2 years in a row, and it's been fantastic. So I plugging aside, this is one of the crown jewels of Ajax, as I say.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. And maybe to switch gears a little bit here, a little bit more about your role as a councillor. Have you always had an interest in politics? How did you get into this type of role?
Oh, listen, I think like any other idealistic teenager, I very much had an interest in politics. But then you kind of get to university, and then I don't know. That's how do you get into politics is a question I get asked all the time. And I was very lucky in the sense that, I've said this story many times, but I'll repeat it. I took a Second City course. I was doing improv, and I happened to meet MP Mark Holland, who at the time was not MP. He had lost in 2011, and we just became very fast friends. And then from there, I found out he was a politician, and then he kind of got me in this world, and I have not looked back since.
And you worked in Mark Holland's office for a little bit,
I did.
right?
I was his senior advisor for 3 years.
Okay.
So, 3.5. It was right before the election. And then just before the election, around, the third year, he kind of said to me, like, you've learned a lot, Sterling. It's been great. But, I really can't teach you anything else. I think you might want to try running. And so I tried running and won my first election.
Right. And so 2018 was the first time you tried running and you won.
Correct. I was very fortunate. And you know what? Like, I always... working for Mark was a really fun experience because I don't know, I got to work with my best friend, so it wasn't really work. We would, go out for drinks after an event and just catch up. So it really was one of my best experiences into politics, and then winning an election and becoming a politician was obviously up there as well.
Right. Well, and I'm sure also working there, you're able to get to know the Ajax community quite well.
Yeah, I was pretty much, he created this kind of stakeholder relations role where, whenever he was in Ottawa, which seemed to be like 300 out of 365 days, I would kind of represent the office and him at events and everything. So it really was a good, I knew a lot of the major organizations, the nonprofits, the community groups, before I ran. So it really was a good springboard for me to run on my own.
Right. Okay, and so with that, maybe could you explain a little bit what your role as a regional councillor for the town is then? And then maybe a little bit of a double question here and what your favorite part of that is.
Okay. My favorite part of the role is, I think, ultimately, and I think you'll probably get a very similar answer from, all six of us, is that I truly enjoy just connecting with my community. A lot of times, there's a lot of roles where you don't know what's going on in the town, and because you go there your 9 to 5 and go home. So this job actively encourages me to get to know my constituents, get to know what are some of their concerns, whether short term, like, I need more parking, or long term, we're building larger buildings for more housing. So it does open that breadth. My job involves a lot of reading. So typically we have about 8 to 10 meetings. I never actually counted a month.
Right.
Each of those meetings has like a 400 to 500 page agenda.
And that's split between the local council, like
Correct.
Ajax and regional, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my time is just spent reading and absorbing a lot of information, trying to be a subject matter expert so you can make decisions on that information.
Right.
I enjoy reading, so it's not that far out, but it's a lot sometimes. Like when you're reading 600 pages on sewer rates, it's not the Da Vinci Code, right? But at the end of the day, it's really important stuff that will build. I always say, I'm not in this job for me so much because no one cares about me, but I like to think that I'm building a better future for my kid and my kid's kid, should they stay in Ajax.
Right, and I suppose also on top of kind of outside of the formal council meetings, another big part of being a regional council would be phone calls, emails, meeting people in person and speaking about those concerns one-on-one with residents, right?
Yeah, 100%. So I meet with residents often. Sometimes it's for positive reasons, like, I have this new community event, or can you give me advice how to start a nonprofit in Ajax? And a lot of them are not so nice. Like, I have a problem with my snow clearing or whatever, and it's part and parcel part of the job. Right. So I by no means take it personally, but it is immensely draining sometimes when I often, I'm a resident, I often share some of these concerns. But, to move the ship and to right these wrongs, so to speak, it does take time. Right. And, people aren't patient anymore, myself included. So you kind of want it sooner and sooner.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I want it yesterday kind of thing. Yep. No, totally understand that. And then so I guess a little bit outside of your day-to-day life then as a regional councillor, what types of activities and hobbies do you like outside of that? What would you do in Ajax on a weekend?
I mean, typically it's sleeping. I have a 6.5-year-old, and that takes way more energy than I ever thought it would take. No. For those of you thinking of starting families, please get all your fun out of your life first, because the first, I'm told, 6 to 8 years is just a lot of just, watching after the kid, making sure they kind of thrive. I love movies, so that is something. It's very funny. I'm a very social person, but my parents were very strict. I think. They're always working full time, and they were never around, so I couldn't really do extracurriculars. So I had a lot of time as a teenager just to myself, and I'd watch just tons of TV and movies. And I guess I don't like the term cinephile because it's so pretentious. I'm just someone who just generally loves going to the movies. So my wife, today's our anniversary, by the way.
Oh, congratulations!
Yes, 8 years, which is shocking. We did not get each other anything. Thank you. I guess after the 5 years, we stopped doing gifts. But one of the things that we loved about each other is just we love going to the movies. Mm-hmm. So especially before we had a kid, we used to go to the movies 2-3 times a week.
Oh, wow.
And just see everything that was new release, good, many bad. But yeah, we used to go to TIFF all the time too.
Yep.
But unfortunately, now that you have a kid, you kind of lose that part of your life, or for a bit, and then you'll get it back as they get older. So yeah, I love watching movies, love watching television.
What's your favorite movie then?
Oh, geez.
Well, you knew that question had to be coming.
I didn't actually. I didn't even. Listen, if I were to do top 3 movies, and by no means this is like a hard list. There was one movie called Glengarry Glen Ross. It's based off a play. It's Al Pacino, Kevin Spacey, Ed Harris, a really famous play. And before my political life, I was in sales, and so it kind of taught me everything I needed to know about sales. Very famous was, ABC, always be closing, coffees for closers. Like, it came from that play. And so that stuck with me as a teenager watching that, being like, okay. And it served me well, when I was in sales. The Dark Knight really holds up there for me, like just the superhero genre.
I have a confession to make. I'm one of the only people who does not like The Dark Knight. I don't like Batman.
Okay. Well, this interview's over. Good night, everyone. Thank you. No, I'm even wearing like a Batman shirt, which is hilarious. So that's incredibly offensive what you just said to me. But really, how did you not like The Dark Knight?
I don't know.
The performance and cinematography, everything was flawless.
Yeah, no, I fell asleep. I just didn't enjoy it. And people...
If you want to cut this now, we should cut it now, because I'm about to turn this table over. No, for me, that was like a perfect action film. I love reading comics. I have since I was a teenager as well. And so to see like a real life comic book just done flawlessly is up there. And then, man, the movie Rudy gets me every time too. Yeah. I'm a grown man, but I freely will cry at movies. But like, that last 20 minutes of Rudy, I could word for word tell you everything that happens, and I will still cry like a baby every time I see it. Like it's a really inspirational movie. I'm not even sure how much is true at this point, but that movie gets me. So I wouldn't say, those are 3 of my top-ish fave. La La Land, I loved that movie La La Land. It was a really good movie about chasing your dreams. I could go on this whole podcast.
We have another hour of this.
Yeah, no. Favorite TV show, which you didn't ask, but I'm going to answer anyways, because I thought about this recently. I'm pretty sure Breaking Bad is the best TV show of all time.
It is good.
Yeah, Gustavo Fring is just one of the best villains in that he's so quiet but menacing at the same time. And just watching that heel turn for Bryan Cranston's character over season 1 to season 5, and then watch it kind of collapse, it was perfection. So I truly love Breaking Bad.
Are you watching anything right now?
I'm rewatching Saved by the Bell. I don't know, you might be too young for this. It was just like a teen
we talked about
sitcom.
this in the office last week, and it's a
teen
little
sitcom.
bit before me.
It's absurd, but it's just when I'm eating lunch, I'll just put on Saved by the Bell because it's
comforting.
It's not even comforting. I always try and be like, well, what was appealing about this back then? But apparently a lot, because it's hilarious. And then right now, like a current show we just finished that we really liked, The Last of Us was incredible.
Yeah,
It's a video game adaptation.
I agree. Yeah.
And then what's another? Fallout, also based on the video
haven't seen
game.
it.
Yeah, if you like The Last of Us, it's like
similar.
Fallout. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
And then we're looking forward to one that not many people are watching is Hacks. It's a HBO comedy drama based off a character kind of like Joan Rivers in Vegas and her career revitalization, and it's a very funny, heartwarming show. So those are probably my 3, but those will change every day. So
Yeah, I'll ask this same question tomorrow.
Yeah, and here are 3 different ones. Again, I could talk about this forever. And then I love doing trivia as well. Like I grew up in a very smart family. My mom was a lawyer. My eldest sister is like a federal prosecutor.
Okay.
My other sister just was really good at academics, and my brother's a dentist.
I didn't know you had so many siblings.
Yeah, so when I say I'm the dumbest kid in my family, like I'm not being, facetious. And so we would often have like trivia nights, and when I was younger, it was obviously very difficult, but they would never coddle me by asking me easier questions. Like my family was always just like, learn it, get better at trivia. And then my compulsive personality, I just consume knowledge. So yeah, I truly love trivia. Trivia is a good time for me. So I'll often be throughout Durham doing various trivia nights.
Well, I know you've been to some of the trivia nights that the town hosts.
I was undefeated for a while.
Yes. So for anybody listening, if you also love trivia, the town does host quite a few trivia nights throughout the year. I believe it's a team normally that you
it's
sign
team
up
trivia. You do it. They do it at the St. Francis Center. Our recreation and culture team is top notch. Like they cover everything, like just a breadth of pop culture, history, real life facts, and it's always a sold out venue every time we're there, and it's just a really good fun. So ages,
Right.
I literally see ages 12 to 90 there, and everyone's
Perfect.
having a great time, and I'm beating each and every one of them, and I have no remorse about that. I'm trying to develop the nickname Trivia Thanos, but I don't think it's sticking.
No,
That's just
not
my
yet.
one, yeah.
You can't give yourself your own nickname.
That's
why.
what I'm learning, right? Now I'm just that guy who brags about trivia.
If you had to describe Ajax in 3 words, what would those 3 words be?
3 words.
I know this is a hard
It's
one.
like, I think that, no, I'm out. Nature, progress, and home, if that makes sense. Like, just like, we're very proud of our nature roots, so to speak. You know, in War II, we have the Greenwood Park, we have one of the longest untouched lakefronts.
Yep.
I think that's our claim, isn't it?
Yes.
Longest undeveloped lakefronts, that's the word I'm looking for.
Public, yeah.
Yeah, public lakefronts. So that's one big part of it. My second one was progress, in that I'm very proud of this. Of just we're modernizing a lot in this town, whether it's our IT infrastructure, which we've invested a lot into, and we're starting to see great things come out of it, or just our processes, or even this building. It's LEED certified. It has all these modern amenities, and so a lot of people, when they think of Ajax, think of a small town, but we're actually kind of growing beyond that. And then third one was home, in that people very much love to live in Ajax. We have a very community-friendly, family-focused
Yep.
municipality, and people kind of expect that. And I think we're delivering it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even speaking of this building, I know there are some large plans for it coming up very soon. I believe the fairgrounds are kind of set to go under construction and open in the near future. So there are some future phases to go on here at ARC, which is really exciting. So I think the idea with that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea would be to hold things like Canada Day here,
Right.
or larger festivals and events, that kind of a thing, right?
Like, listen, it's self-serving because I live right across the street, so I can walk to all the events. But that's very much like it's ARC. The Audley Rec Centre is just a huge potential pool, so to speak. We've already realized a lot of it with the first 2 phases. Phase 3, we've talked about possibly an ice path,
Right.
as well as like you said, the fairgrounds is coming imminently. So it's awesome. I also am amazed at how quickly you're able to connect all these things and keep shilling. It's so seamless the way you're doing it. Like we're not following any sort of script, but it's coming to the top of your head. So yeah, I forget some of these things too. But yeah, the fairgrounds, I think shovels in hopefully this summer, and
Yep.
so hopefully by next year we can realize some of that potential.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be really exciting for the community. And maybe to change gears a little bit here, we'll kind of talk a little bit more about politics again. But you mentioned earlier that you have a son who's 6.5 right now,
That's right.
so grade 1. And obviously your political journey has been, what I assume has been a good one for you. You seem to be very happy doing this.
It's not so much if I'm happy, it's whether my constituents are happy. And I think
Right.
so far so good. I mean, knock on wood. Right?
Right.
I mean, so far so good.
That's a good answer. Do you think Finn would be interested in getting into politics, kind of like following your footsteps? And even if he did or didn't, would you have advice for him?
Oh, wow.
I know
We're
it's
going into the Barbara
it's a deep
Walters
one.
of this now. Okay. Start crying. Close up. Listen, what my son does is always up to him. It's something as hard as my parents were on, the 4 siblings, they always very much were open to us making our own path.
Right.
And, my brother became a dentist. Like, we're all over the place. And just based on my personality, politics seemed to work. I love talking, as you can tell. I haven't stopped talking in this entire process. But, I also just like community building and, representing the community. It's very much an honor. And I don't use that term lightly. It truly is an honor to be the representative of, Ward 2. I wouldn't force my kid to do any sort of path. If he chooses to go into politics, absolutely his choice. I think if there's anything we can teach our kids, it's that no matter what your passion is, just give 100%. You could want to work in a warehouse, you could want to be a lawyer, you could want to pump gas or be an Uber. It doesn't matter. I'm always in the firm belief that whatever you're doing in life, do it to the best of be the best of your field. And that's always what I'm striving towards, because it's what creates dynamic, motion, so to
Right.
speak. So yeah, any advice I would give to Finn? Oh, geez. Mark Holland gave me the best advice, and I've said this story a few times, and I don't think I've said it on the podcast. Was, my first year in politics, the only kind of political figure I really knew well was Mark Holland. So I remember trying to speak like Mark Holland. So I'd go to events like, ribbon cuttings, and I'd be like, "Hi, I'm Sterling Lee. I'm, Ward 2 regional," and I affected my voice. And Mark was with me, and we had coffee, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like,
Right.
what do you mean? He's just like, "You don't sound like that normally. Like, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I guess I'm just trying to be like a version of you." And he's like, "Don't." He's like, "When you knocked on doors, like during an election, you were you, and that's what people expect, and it's the easiest thing to remember." So if I were to give any advice to Finn or to anybody, it's just be authentic.
Yeah, be your authentic self.
I think all too often you see people try to be a more professional or more dour, serious version of themselves because they think that's what people want, and I don't think that's true. Like I'm someone who likes to make people laugh. That has
Yeah.
never changed about me, even though you've barely laughed this entire interview, and I'm getting all
Need
stressed.
better jokes.
Getting all ouch. Let's edit that one out. But it's just like, so be your authentic self because that's all you can remember to be, and either it's good enough or it's not. But if it's not, then again, you can't change that. You can't change yourself. You can always improve yourself. I'm a firm believer of that, but just be authentic. So that's what I've tried to embrace, and if that means wearing Jordans instead of dress shoes, or again making jokes instead of just following a script. I think that's always worked for me,
Right.
or at least I hope it has. And so that's what I will follow because that's who I am.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I think that's actually, to be honest, good advice for anybody at any age, really.
Right.
So, no, I like that a lot. I'm just going to quickly pull out something that you had said kind of at the beginning of that
So
answer
you were
there.
listening. Okay,
I
very good.
absolutely was
Very
listening.
good.
But you had commented that you really enjoy representing the community.
Yeah.
That's one of the big parts of the role that you like. And I just wanted to quickly touch on that. I know you sit on a few different committees, but from my understanding, two of the bigger committees that you sit on is the region's anti-racism task force, and you also sit on the town's new anti-racism task force as
Yeah.
well. Would you be able to maybe talk a little bit about what these task force are for, the type of work that they're doing, and how
100%.
people could learn a little bit more about them?
So I don't take lightly that I'm on regional council, one of three racialized councillors, and that's insanity to me. Like Ajax, we have like 57% racialized is our population, and the region is more than 3 of 28 or 29. So
Right.
like that percentage is we're underrepresented, and as I got into politics, I won't say people looked up to me to solve these issues, but very much like there was a responsibility I had to utilize my role to further the important issues like combating racism. So from the George Floyd protests to now, it's a very scary world we live in. And I'm not saying anything that's never been said 100 times and won't be said 100 times from now, but just people are angrier, people are trying to find reasons to justify their anger. And, people look to race and say, oh, this race is doing better than this race or whatever. And so I think one of the core tenets of the anti-racism task force is to realize that it's not so much putting one above another, rather it's lifting everyone to an equal point. And what a lot of people don't realize is that we don't have any sort of equity or equality right now. Like people who look like me or, are African Canadian or whatever in background, there are certain disadvantages that we've felt our whole life. And, I will never claim to know what it's like to be in a black person's skin. Of course not. But I definitely sympathize that it's not been easy, and there's been trials and tribulations that I don't experience as an Asian Canadian, and vice versa. There's issues that I have experienced as an Asian Canadian that a black Canadian or a Muslim Canadian will not experience. But I think there's a joint desire to do better. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the core tenet of how can we make everything equal. And, some of the things that I'm working on with the Durham Anti-Racism Task Force is connecting with the DRPS and ensuring our policing policies are more equitable, because they're not right now. We have a very white police force in a more diverse area. In the town of Ajax, it's true, we don't have a very diverse work population ourselves. Our upper management team, I think, is exclusively white. And especially in the municipal field where you could be in that role for generations, I don't want an entire generation before we start seeing inclusivity and representation. So it's just, putting a magnifying glass to these establishments, the region, the town of Ajax, and saying, just look from our lens. Do you see that there's a problem? If not, we're trying to tell you that there's a problem. And then it's not so much just telling you there's a problem and just wipe our hands. It's like, how do we get to a solution? What does a solution look like? And something I'm very proud of at the town was implementing something simple like blind resumes.
Yeah.
So I think that's coming up.
I think it's
here.
already implemented.
Right.
Yeah.
And realistically, when you look at a resume, we don't see names. There's certain areas you black out. So you're getting just who is the best applicant based on a resume. And it removes a lot of the blind spots, I call them, of the bias that may be there that people don't realize, and hopefully it'll create a more equitable Ajax and equitable Durham region.
Right.
So I think I answered your question there. If not, please probe more. But yeah, I'm very proud of that work. Because again, not for me, again, most people don't know I'm on these task force because I'm awful at marketing myself. But it's, if I can make this area better for my kid and all these other kids and the kids' kids and so on, then that's the legacy piece that I know I will have done.
Right. And for people who are interested in learning a little bit more about the task force, I can speak to the Ajax portion of it. So the Ajax Anti-Racism Task Force, we do have a dedicated webpage to it. There's that gives the ability to be able to contact them if you'd like. Right. So if you go to ajax.ca/diversity, you'll be able to link directly to the task force page from there. I assume the region must have something similar. I assume it's
durham.ca/diversity.
Okay.
If not, you will CGI my lips to say the proper one.
We'll add to the show notes if it's
durham.ca/ and then you'll just fill in the audio there. We'll do some post audio.
All right, and so Sterling, we're kind of coming close to the end of our conversation.
So soon?
Here. I know, right? It's been so much fun. But what's the best way for our listeners and residents to be able to get in touch with somebody like you?
The best way to get hold of me is by phone or by email.
Yep.
My email is sterling.lee@ajax.ca. I do have social media. It's more just like information to give to residents. So you can find me at Your Voice for Ajax, YRUR, voice, number 4, Ajax.
All right, and you also do community ward meetings that are in person, right?
I do. We do one, I think it's 3 times a year. We typically do them at the Audley Rec Centre.
Okay.
This community hall we normally have, and we get tons of community members just expressing their feelings.
It's an open forum where anybody can ask any question.
I start each meeting with what's on everybody's mind today.
Right.
And they'll let me know. But generally, it's been a really good experience. My residents of Ward 2 are generally, they want to help. So much so that we're actually going to start, I don't know when this is going to be aired, but a community action group where just like-minded individuals doing park cleanups, doing mailbox cleanups, stuff like that.
Right.
Anything that kind of improves the community.
Right.
We're trying to find a catchy name for it, but I think I've settled on community action group. So there's
Gets the point across.
Right. Thank you.
And then just for anybody who's interested in attending those types of meetings, so those are promoted on the corporate town channels. So our corporate at Town of Ajax on X or Twitter, Instagram, our Facebook is facebook.com/myajax. And then also on the town's website, so ajax.ca/calendar, you can see all the upcoming ward meetings.
Yeah, it's very funny. Shevin and I go way back. Shevin started as our admin assistant back in 2018, and now is our manager of corporate communications. Is that your title? What's your title?
Supervisor of Communications and Engagement.
Supervisor of Communication and Engagement. So that's, it's wonderful seeing your path skyrocket.
Yeah, I started at the town the exact same week that all of you started.
Yes.
So you guys would come to me with questions, and I
But
couldn't
now
answer
you don't
them.
got to deal with us no more. Now you tell us. And yeah, you and your entire team are doing a great job of getting those communications out. Oh, another thing, we also have newsletters, so check your
Yes.
mailbox. Those happen, I think, twice a year.
Yes, twice a year.
Except during election years.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, twice a year generally, and they're delivered via Canada Post right to your mailbox. And that would be news that comes from each regional and local councillor. So you would receive your newsletter from Sterling and also Nancy. All right, well, on that note, thank you everybody for tuning in, and thank you so much, Sterling, for
Do we do a
joining
handshake?
us.
You know,
Sure.
Thank you. No, honestly, thank you so much.